Heyo, so today I'm going to give you an update of what benefits and reliefs the UK government are giving for the coronavirus, whether you're employed, self-employed or own a company. But first, remember to drop a like down below. Now let's get into the video. So firstly, let's talk about employees. Obviously everyone should be staying at home unless you can't work from home and you obviously don't work in one of the forbidden types of jobs such as pubs, clubs, restaurants or bars. The first type of compensation you'll be entitled to as an employee is Statutory Sick Pay, or SSP. Obviously this is really little, at only like £94 a week, but obviously if you're not claiming it, it's definitely worth contacting your employer to make sure that you are getting paid that £94 a week, because obviously every little helps. The second type of compensation for an employee is the Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme. This is where your employer continues to pay you 80% of your salary. It's sometimes called furloughed leave. Obviously this is paid by your employer and therefore you need to arrange it and agree with your employer whether you're going to be furloughed. They should obviously continue paying the 80% of your salary up to £2,500 a month, and obviously they can then reclaim it back from the government. If you've been let go by your employer or had your contract terminated as a result of the coronavirus, you'll also be eligible for universal credit. This has just been increased from £317 a month to over £400 a month, but you'll only be eligible for it if you've got less than £16,000 in savings. Well, it's definitely worth applying for and receiving, and you can also apply for housing benefit, which will help you make rent payments on your flat or house wherever you're living. This type of compensation is applied for on the government website. You can also receive this payment a month in advance, so that obviously you don't have to wait till the end of the month to receive some money. Now, if you're a part-time employee and you work a 0-hour contract, or you're kind of like a temporary staff, you're still eligible for statutory sick pay, the furloughed leave job retention scheme, and universal credit. It's obviously best to discuss the first two with your employer because obviously your hours are going to be different each month. So the employer might choose to base it on an average of your previous X amount of months of hours, or just solely based on your last month of hours. So it's obviously best to discuss with them and try and agree to maximise obviously how much you're going to be receiving in this period of time. Furlough leave is actually also available to apprentices, those on a fixed contract, salaried members of a limited partnership, and also company directors. Obviously if you're a company director and you pay yourself a salary, that can also be covered by the government under the job retention scheme. Next up is self-employed. Obviously it's still best to stay at home if possible, but obviously if you work in a trade, it's more than likely that you want to try and get back to work, and you can go back to work as long as you're staying around 2 meters away from other people at all times. Now, the first type of compensation that's available for those that are self-employed is the Self-Employed Income Support Scheme. This is where the government will give you a grant of up to 80% of your profits, obviously limited at £2,500 per month. So what does this exactly mean? So a grant means that it's not repayable or that it's forgivable, which means that obviously you don't have to pay this money back to the government later down the line and or with interest. This amount's actually calculated by HMRC for you based on your 2016-17, 17-18 and 18-19 tax returns. HMRC will be automatically calculating it and inviting you to join the scheme, so you don't actually have to apply for this on a different website. It will start I think in June and it's going to last for up to 3 months. Obviously if you haven't been self-employed since 2016-17, you're still eligible for the scheme and HMRC will still be calculating it for you, but they'll just be basing it on the tax returns that are available. But you do also have to have been working or self-employed in 2018-19 and 2019-20 to be eligible. You do also have to make sure you have submitted your tax return for 2018-19, and if you haven't, it's best to submit it as soon as possible, and I think they're also giving you a 4-week extension on the deadline. The second type of compensation that's available for those that are self-employed is universal credit. This obviously works the same as if you're an employee, and again you just go on the government website, fill out the application form, and obviously when you get approved it will then be paid to you. If you've enjoyed the video so far, be sure to leave a comment down below about which benefit or relief or compensation you'd like me to go a bit more in detail with on the next video. Alternatively, drop a comment if you've got any other videos that you'd like me to make in the future, or if you've got any questions that you want answered, and I'll try to reply to as many comments as possible. Now, if you're an employer, which is obviously the flip side to what we've talked about earlier in the video, for those that are employees and those that are self-employed, there's obviously still some benefits and reliefs and compensation available for you as well. The first is obviously the job retention scheme. So obviously you need to continue to pay your employees 80% of their salary, up to £2,500 a month, plus national insurance and tax, and the government will obviously reimburse all of this for you. It starts on the 1st of March and will last initially for 3 months. You again just go onto the HMRC or government website and apply through their website. Next up is the Statutory Sick Pay refund. So actually the government are actually reimbursing up to 2 weeks of statutory sick pay that you pay to all of your employees. Next up is the VAT payment deferral. If you're struggling to make your VAT payment on time, you can actually defer it until later in the year. HMRC have said though that they do want all 4 quarters for the 2021 period paid by the end of quarter 4 or at the usual time. So obviously this means that you either have to increase payments or periods 2, 3 and 4 or make a double payment somewhere. So obviously if you can afford to make your VAT payment, it's probably best that you do so. It's also really important to remember that if you are deferring this quarter's VAT payment, that you still submit the VAT return on time. Otherwise, you'll still be liable to the normal fees and interest that HMRC charge for late returns or late payment. There's also the business support grant funding. So the government and HMRC have already distributed a lot of cash to local authorities. The local authorities will then be contacting businesses in their constituency and giving a grant, which means that you don't have to repay it or it's forgivable, a payment of either £10,000 or £25,000 depending on your rateable value. Next up is the Business Interruption Loan Scheme. If your turnover is below 45 million, you can take out a loan up to 5 million. It's actually potentially really great because the government are offering to pay all interest and all payments for that first 12 months, including any fees. Although it might not be really great as well because the government and HMRC haven't stated the interest rate on their website. They state that you've got to apply directly through a CBILS approved lender and obviously they'll look at the situation and look at what you want the loan for and then quote you an interest rate. So it might be really great or it might be terrible. I don't actually know at the moment. Next up is business rates relief. If you're in a business that's one of those jobs that can't go to work at the moment, such as restaurants, bars, pubs and clubs, you will automatically be given business rates relief. So the local authorities will automatically deduct this out of your next rates invoice. But obviously if you have had your rates invoice and you haven't received any deduction, it's important to get in contact with your local authority just to make sure if you are actually eligible for this relief. I personally think that the business support grant funding is the best kind of relief that the government are offering at the moment. So obviously they're offering a free £10,000 grant to you, which means that you don't have to repay it and you can use it for whatever you want. Obviously it is best to use it for business related activities such as investments in a new store or just general expenditure or for covering employees' wages. But this will be really helpful because it will give you that £10,000 or £25,000 up front so that you continue paying your expenditure and meeting obviously your expenses as they come up. If you want to learn more about investing or about general finance, please check out some of my other videos. Alternatively, subscribe to the channel and ding the notification bell so that you'll be alerted when I upload a new video. Cheers!